back to another episode of the Halfstep Pod. I am your co-host Connor Lane, and across from me, again virtually, we got Grant Fisher. Grant, do anything cool this weekend?
Yeah, dude, it's coming off a big weekend. Back in Portland now though. It's been some time. I haven't been here since mid-December. So it's good to be at our temporary home again, not living out of a suitcase.
This is a new house for you guys as well, right?
Um yeah, the house is ever expanding. So the originals were me, Kieran, and Thomas, and Mark recently moved in, although he's in Europe right now. So we are ever expanding, and Lopez is talking about moving in temporarily, but we'll see. We'll see.
If he moves in, it might be easier to get him on the pod.
That is true. Yeah, it would be easier to get him in. So yeah. Well, I'll see what I can do.
This is what everyone came here for, right? This episode, a little bit of it. Maybe
Yeah,
we can do a
the
house
housing
tour.
situation. Yeah,
You can pick up
yeah.
the computer camera and walk around with it. And no, we have to dive right into this, man. Um, American record in the 10,000 meters. In case anyone wasn't watching the live stream on Sunday night, we'll talk about that. The race getting pushed to Sunday night when it was originally going to be Saturday. Just 26:33, beating the previous American record by 11 seconds, 26:44. Galen Rupp. At the 10, the meet put on by Sound Running seemed like a fantastic meet. Got everything done on your guys' end. You had a post about it that didn't have the words for it. I don't truly have the words for what I think beating the American record by that much, beating it at all, but beating it by that much means. It's been a couple days now. We're recording this on Tuesday night. How are you feeling? Like what's that feeling like?
Yeah, it's a weird feeling. Things have moved really quickly over the past month. I went from hoping to achieve some big things, and now I have my name next to a lot of people that I respect a lot. Looking at some of these descending order list, all-time lists now, I see my name and it almost looks out of place. Like you see these legends of the sport from decades past or the current era, and I don't know. I'm not used to seeing my name associated with those people because I've always kind of viewed them as being at a different level. So, man, it's a really good feeling. It's really cool. I think I'll still have difficulty describing what I'm feeling right now on this podcast, but I'll do my best.
Yeah.
There's a lot to dive into, I guess. Yeah, but yeah, I'm still riding the high.
I mean, it's not just like the transition from viewing those people on a different level to now you being on an equal level. I mean, of course, not to like 11 seconds in a 10K, faster than any American has ever run. I mean, I know if you're any sort of running nerd, you've seen the Chris Slinsky race at Peyton Jordan, right, at Stanford, where he runs 26:59, and that gets the American record at the time in that race that was being set up for Galen Rupp. And we should do a deep dive on that at some point because that's a phenomenal race. It's
Yeah,
one of
that's a
those
great
ones
race.
one of those ones you watched Chris Slinsky's 10K growing up on YouTube, and you're like, that running is cool. 26:59, and like just to think about what happened this weekend, running 26:33. I mean, obviously it's not the world record. Obviously there are people out there who run faster than that. It definitely, looking at the descending order list, seeing your name at the top, I mean, that's wild. And we can get more into the specifics of this because I feel like that's kind of where you often keep your head as opposed to going big picture and being like, wow, I have this American record. But I mean, it's got to feel nice. It's got to feel nice. So unless there's anything else, like take me through, I guess, kind of starting out. I feel like something that we didn't really post about. I mean, I know that Sound Running did, is the meet got moved, so you guys went down there initially, but ended up waiting for, I think, longer than a whole extra day than you initially thought, right?
Yeah. Things were kind of weird going into the meet. We had originally planned on racing on Saturday night down in uh, California, southern LA, basically. And on Wednesday, we were doing our very last track session at NAU's track. it was a super light session, so we didn't bother dropping down in altitude. Just did it at NAU. It was a very standard pre-meet thing where you're not working very hard. You're just trying to keep the legs fresh, feel some pop, do 1 rep at race pace, but that's it. And right before we started the workout, Jerry pulled all the guys aside and said, guys, we kind of have a situation. There's projected 20-mile-an-hour winds on Saturday night down in at this spot that we were going to race at, J Sarah. And he said there were gusts up to 30 miles an hour projected, and he was having doubts about the conditions being optimal. And at that time, 20 miles an hour winds with gusts up to 30 does not sound good. That doesn't sound fun.
That could blow you right off the track.
Yeah.
You're going to be up in the LA sky.
Yeah, we were saying, running. He wouldn't block wind for me. He's a pretty nice. So, we were making a lot of jokes about it, but it was a serious situation because, if we did a little math after this conversation, we're like, even if you think the wind slows you down 1% over the course of a 10K, that's a lot of time. That's for sure the difference between getting the world standard and not getting the world standard. That can be the difference between breaking 27 and not, the American record or not. Even 1%. Those are massive numbers when you extrapolate that to 10K. So yeah, Jerry said, we're going to have to make a call on this. And the weather could change. He said, I'm going to request that the race gets moved to Sunday. And I think he said there were other coaches feeling the same way and other athletes feeling the same way, looking at the wind readings. And he said this could end up being the wrong call. Like it's very possible the wind, it's super windy Sunday night and Saturday night's perfect. And, we could have shot ourselves in the foot by doing this. But he said with the information that we have now, I think this is the right decision to make. And he was on the phone with Jesse, the meet director, and the guy that pretty much organized all of this down at Sound Running. And sounds like he agreed that Sunday would be more optimal, but there were tons of logistics involved in moving this meet. So we were just told to hold tight. And we were planning on leaving that Thursday, so the day after pre-meet. We got the text from Jerry at 11:30 p.m. on Wednesday. Cancel your flight, boys. We're staying up an extra day. Get a hotel room because all of our Airbnbs expired that day. So
the dedication in the hotel room, staying one more day at altitude with the race delayed one is
yeah. So we stay the extra day. Usually we like to race 2 days out of altitude. So if we came down Thursday, it would be 3 days down. So and then, can't have that.
And that offsets the wind. It's just you don't want to go through that process.
So so all the and we ended up getting the green light that Thursday. Hey, book your flights for tomorrow. We're going. Meets moved to Sunday and be ready to go. So
hell yeah.
Yeah, we had 1 day in limbo. There were points where people were starting to doubt that the meet was going to be able to be moved to Sunday, just because, you have a lot of things that go into meet. You have, in this case, we had the light rail that was shipped from Oregon down to California for this race.
We'll talk about the light rail.
Yeah. We have, you have meet officials, you have volunteers, you have drug testers, you have timing crews, you have a track that maybe we didn't have permission for Sunday, we had permission for Saturday, so that all had to be worked around. We had different city ordinances that we had to follow, where the town of San Juan Capistrano says that you can't have the stadium lights on past a certain time, so the meet had to be moved to a little earlier in the night than it was previously planned. So all these like technical little details, but Jesse ironed them out, which was great. And it
Got you
happened.
guys down there. Yeah.
So
And the meet happened.
yeah.
And I
So we
feel
made it
like
down.
at the 10-minute mark, we should probably get into it, into the meet
Yeah.
specifically.
That's enough logistics. People probably don't care about that, but shout out to Jesse.
Yeah, shout out to everyone who helped put this meet on, especially Jesse and obviously, yeah. I mean, it is cool hearing about like how mobile, like how flexible the team can be in this kind of situation. Though, getting you guys like maximizing your situations, it's definitely a luxury you guys have, but you do it to the best of your ability is still a skill and something that you can control and you guys control well. Talking about this meet specifically though, I feel like it your racing season has really gotten broken up the last couple of years, right? Because you guys did this meet last year, like the first rendition of it, into you've got these time trial races early on, and then as you build into the actual racing championship season, we see more of like the racing. Maybe you drop down for a 1500, you kind of mix it up, and then we go into trials, and then if you make the team, the championships or the Olympic cycle, and then maybe some more racing on the back end of that. But that's kind of the pattern that we've seen. So you've hit some of these early early season time trial type stuff before in seasons past. So I coming into this meet, where's your head at having just done this 5, right, running 12:53 in it, coming into this 10, knowing, hey, I did a very similar type of thing last year, knowing approximately what the group was going to look like and Woody pacing you guys, like what were your main concerns? What were you thinking about going into this race? Besides, I mean, you had one eye on the American record. We all kind of know this. But besides that, where's your head at? What are you focused on?
Yeah. You actually raised a bunch of interesting topics there. I will touch on. I'll get to what you just said, but I will touch on one piece really quickly. We have this really interesting balance of in our sport trying to run fast and then racing, and usually those two don't go exactly hand in hand. Usually, if you want to run as fast as you possibly can, you want to have an ideal race with good temperatures, low winds, good pacing, stuff like that. But the most exciting and most important part of our sport is the racing, and that usually comes in the summer where you're racing in the middle of the day. There's no pacers. It's a tactical affair. You're racing. So we, as a team, we've tried to find a really nice balance where it's really fun to test your body's limits and see how fast you can go. And it's also fun to race. And the balance that we found right now is to do some of these, test yourself against the clock races early on, and then sharpen up and be ready for the summer races where you need to be more of a tactical racer in the summertime. Especially as an American, these Olympic teams, these World Championship teams are really difficult to make. You have to be pretty tuned up to make one of these teams. So, you can't be messing about with time trials and stuff leading up to it. You kind of want to have a pretty big cushion between that part of the season and championship racing part of the season. So that's why these two pieces are kind of separated like that. Because I think, a lot of people wonder why we did something like race this 10K instead of doing US indoors and try to make the world indoor team. There's only so many days in a season. There's only so many hard efforts you can put forth. And when you cycle your season, it can be tough to fit everything in. And sometimes it's a timing issue. I wish there were an extra month, like between like March and April, like if you just squeeze an extra month in there somehow, because then I would have loved to have been able to try to make the world indoor team and do this 10K. But there's just not ample time, especially with the US 10K championship moved up a month. That just condenses our season.
Ooh. Okay.
Race.
Yeah, are you back? There was a pretty big lag there. we will cut out of the audio only version, but I think for YouTube you're gonna have to restart from somewhere along the lines of what was it? Just the extra month in the racing season. That was a big. I don't know if it's your internet or mine, man, but this. We've got
I
a
don't
rough
know.
one
I don't know.
tonight with
Maybe
internet.
I don't know. But all right, back to it. Because we
Back to it. I might be able to take it out of the YouTube. We'll see.
Yeah. All right.
All right, your is choppy. Okay, we're good. Nope, maybe. Oh my goodness.
You're completely good on your end.
Can you tell?
No.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a true like visual medium if we weren't dealing with some huge just gaps in campus Wi-Fi or maybe house Wi-Fi. But it seems like you're settled now. Seems like everything is settled back down. We'll get you an Ethernet cable for the future or something. But okay, but I mean, the gist of it being that we got to divide out these two blocks for you, and yeah, US indoor would have been a cool opportunity, but you knew you couldn't balance both with this 10K as well. Yeah, so I guess take it from wherever you want with that, but definitely like approaching this actual race. You probably knew it was going to get. You probably knew the group that was going and the group that wasn't, right? It seemed like your team had an idea of like you and Mo, with Woody and Josh pacing you guys. We're gonna go after these records, and basically the rest of the crew was going to go hit this world standard in the 10K, but not do anything too crazy. Trying to go with you guys, and it split up pretty quickly off the start line. I assume that this was all planned. I assumed you knew Woody was pacing it, even though the announcers did not know in the race. So take me through like kind of the beginning there and getting settled, running like freaking 63 point basically for this 10K, which is just, I mean, everyone go out and try to run a 63 at your track. I'm sure some people in our audience can do it. Some people in our audience might even be able to do it again. After that point, you're getting down to brass tacks as to if anyone can do that 3 times in a row. That it's pretty sick. So yeah, take me through the beginning of this race.
Yeah, for sure. I guess I'll go slightly build up to the race first. Yeah, so everyone on the team, and I believe everyone in the field, was on the same page that there were kind of going to be 2 races within the race. And we were going to have these pace light things as well, and pacers for each group. One group that had the goal of getting after the world championship standard, which is 27:28. So getting under that was a big goal for a lot of people in the race. And then for Mo and myself, we already had the world championship standard from last year. The window kind of extends pretty deep for the 10K. So we really didn't have much to lose in trying to chase a fast time, because even if we blew up and ran really poorly, we still had the standard. So that's the reason why the 2 groups. The pacing situation was being juggled up until the day before the race. The plan originally was for JT to pace, and then Woody actually volunteered to pace. He was originally supposed to race, and Jerry originally wanted him to race, but he really wanted to pace. So definitely shout out to him. Pretty selfless act.
For sure.
So yeah, we ended up getting Woody to pace, and then the day before, I was told that Sam Atkin wanted to lead for 2K of the race, and then tuck back in and finish. So he was also a rabbit. And then that the night before, I was told that Ollie was going to help pace the first 2K as well. So we had all hands on deck for this pace job. The other group had Yoma pacing, one of the Japanese guys that's been training with us. So both groups had pacing. Both groups knew the goal. And I guess I'll speak more specifically for the group I was in, just because I had more conversations with Jerry about that than the World Championship Standard group.
That makes sense considering which
yeah. The goal was to run fast. and the goal was to break the American record, or the North American record, more accurately. And Jerry wanted the pace lights at 13:22. I wanted them more like 13:28. I was a little less ambitious in the pace or the pace I wanted to kind of squeeze off of. I was hoping we could run like 13:25 to 13:30 over the first half, and then really run that pace for almost all of the race, and then have a kick the last lap that ideally brought us just a touch under 26:44, which was the record. So yeah, in the end, Jerry won out.
That is not what happened.
Yeah, Jerry won out, and looking back, it seems to have been the right call. Yeah, we had the pace lights go out almost exactly on 64.0 pace for every lap, which is that's cooking.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
When I was in college, even like my senior year, goal pace was 64 to 65 for a 5K. And that was like, that would have been a PR. That was PR pace for me. And fast forward 3-4 years later, and that's what I'm coming through a 10K in, which is wild. So yeah, that's kind of the lead up. Mo and I knew that eventually it was going to be just me and him, two of us together. And we both knew that we were really relying on the other person. 10K is a long way to go. And, doing it solo, it just takes a lot of energy. We had the luxury of having each other. Elise had to do a lot of work by herself in the previous race, so she didn't have that same luxury. But Mo and I knew we needed each other out there, and the plan was, whenever the last pacer stepped off, which was Woody, Mo and I were going to split the lead, however we saw fit in the moment, and try to share it and carry each other through, because this wasn't, we ultimately ended up racing at the end, which was very exciting, and I think dragged us even faster than we would have. But you can't start the gamesmanship and the racing at 7K.
Well, there's such little reason to do it in this kind of contrived, like, racing for the record setting, especially, I feel like, right? Like,
yep.
This whole thing is designed for you to run as fast as you can. Yeah, Woody steps off somewhere around 6 or 7, right? I honestly, everything is thrown off for me because of how fast your guys' 10K is. Like, I typically think of it as like, oh, so a couple minutes under 30 if it's a really fast one. So I looked up and I was like, oh, Woody's off already. That's weird. They're only at like 22, 21 minutes. And then I was like, wait, that's like pretty much a mile. Like, they're going to be 26 something. That's absurd. So I kind of got thrown off by all that. How long was he in there? And then he steps off, and Mo does a really good job for a while there taking it, but you're like right on his shoulder doing that kind of thing where I feel like even though Mo was in the lead, you're so close to it that it honestly is very much mutual lead. Like, you definitely get a benefit as a person in the lead, knowing that someone's right there too, I feel like. So how long was Woody on? And then did you kind of try to help Mo out by being right behind him before you did take a couple laps there?
Yeah. I believe Woody made it to just past 7K.
Yeah, that's
honestly, I was trying not to pay attention to the lap counts as much as I could. So I'm not really sure how far he went, but I believe it was a little past 7K. So, I mean, that's ideal. Having a pacer get you to 7K of a 10K is as good as it gets. And our pacer was the defending US champion at the distance. So like, how much better could it get? You got a great athlete rabbiting you so smooth. I went back and looked at our splits, and we were just so dead on. Ollie started us off great. JT kept it rolling. Sam kept it rolling, and then Woody kind of really got us right onto that 64.0 rhythm. So by the time Woody stepped off, we were set up perfect. We were right on those lights, and I'd been hearing the splits, trying to shut my mind off, but you hear the splits every time when your coach is in your face screaming. And so, yeah, my confidence was growing throughout the race. Before this one, my PR was 27:11. And so this was very much uncharted territory for me. I think Mo is a little more comfortable because he's run under 27 minutes before. So he kind of knew the feeling. He knew what it takes. He knew the splits a little bit better.
That's true, but he'd only run like what 26:59, right, or 57. It hadn't
Yeah,
been like
yeah.
I mean, an incredible time, but like still a massive PR for him in this race.
Right.
Like not like he'd been here before, really, in a lot of ways.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough.
I mean, he
had broken the 27-minute barrier. He's run a lot more 10Ks than me.
That's true.
But
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there were big jumps for both of us. Massive PRs for both of us. So we were in uncharted waters. And so you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, you have the confidence in yourself, but like one of our biggest pre-meet work or pre-race workouts we did was down in Phoenix, and we did 1K and 2K reps at goal pace, 64 point. And sometimes you do those workouts and you think to yourself, like, man, how am I going to do this 10 times in a row? Like, how on earth am I going to be able to do this? Like, I'm doing 1K reps with a break, and it's hard. How am I going to just string these back to back? And it's crazy how much you can surprise yourself on race day. Just in the moment with some guys around you, that being your singular focus with a little bit of a taper. It's crazy that sometimes you can get your body to do things like that. So yeah, I guess back to the race, Woody got us to 7K, and then Mo took over and started ratcheting the pace down. I could feel us really starting to tighten the screws, as people say. Like, you start to squeeze, and it's like you have a towel full of water and you're trying to squeeze out all the drops. And as you get closer to the end, you have to squeeze a little tighter and harder, and it takes a little bit more effort. And you kind of progressively start feeling that the water's almost running dry. Yeah, Mo squeezed it, and then I'm not sure how many laps he led. It felt like maybe four laps.
Yeah,
I'm not really sure. It was kind of a blur, maybe 5. He led for quite a while, and then I was right behind him and trying to stay as relaxed as possible. But when you're 8K, 9K into a 10K, you're not relaxed. So yeah, at one point I felt like it was my turn to help out, and I said to Mo, like, I can help. That's all I could mutter was, I can help. And so
talking at that point is ridiculous anyway. So.
And so he stepped to the side and let me up. Started to squeeze a bit, and really kind of up. And at this point, we were well ahead of the pace lights, so we didn't have that visual cue, which was actually quite nice to not have the visual cue at the end. Just kind of squeeze as you wanted to, and not have these lights kind of dictating it. And towards the end, maybe with 2-3 laps to go, Jerry was on the backstretch, and he was like, "You guys are going to break 26:40. Like, you guys are going to kill the record, basically." And I was like, oh shit! Like, I didn't know that we were going that quick relative to the record. I thought maybe we could dip a toe under and run low 26:40s, but now he's yelling at us like, if you really squeeze here, you can get into the 26:30s, which I absolutely would not have predicted going into the race. And yeah, we squeezed it down. I knew Mo was on my shoulder the whole time. I know what Mo can do. I see him in practice every day. The guy is an aerobic monster. his like his ability to do aerobic work is next level. So I knew I wasn't like trying to shake him or anything. I was just trying to squeeze the race down, and I knew he'd be there. And then, yeah, I mean, you're just squeezing and squeezing and squeezing. And then all of a sudden it's a lap to go. And, it's time to just give everything you have left, which at a 10K is usually not very much.
Yeah, you closed 58.0. 58.00. Mo closed in 58.08. The difference between you guys was like not even that last lap. I mean, so you take the lead somewhere around like 1200 to go, right? Like somewhere in that lap going into like 3 to go. And you pull it through. And then with about, I mean, again, you guys talked about this in your post race interview you guys did for the streaming site. It's all love. It's all about like pulling each other to get this time. With about 300 meters to go in the race, though, he moves around you like on the backstretch, right? Like on your shoulder and by. And I mean, that looked like he opened up that gap on you, and you were still going to run crazy fast. You had the AR locked up. I mean, it seems like you were even aware of like, I have this AR, although I'm sure that you're still just trying to run fast and win the race. And he put that gap on you, and I thought, look, Grant is incredible, but I don't know if there's a shot that he comes back from this like 5, 6, 7 meter gap that was opening with 200 to go against someone like Mo who's got 2 medals. I mean, I don't know. You don't often come back on. He didn't. It's not like he faded back to you either. Talk to me about. I mean, he goes around you, and obviously, like the move, if you have anything left, and you do, is like you somehow find a way to like latch right onto his stride as he comes around you, right? Like kind of like lock right in there and be ready to move again. And you didn't do that in that moment, but you still found a way to come back around and narrowly outkick him. Which again, like as teammates, isn't. If there's bragging rights on the line, there's of course North American record on the line, but it also isn't like the biggest thing in the world. It's not like this is the Olympics or Worlds. But talk to me about that last 250, finding a gear that like a year ago Grant did not have. I mean, you might not have been here a year ago running 26:33, but also would not have been able to have that kind of comeback on someone like Mo. So just talk to me about this finish.
Yeah, man, that last lap was wild. I guess to your point, yes, I did realize that I'd be able to get the American record when Jerry was yelling things like that. But that left my mind fairly quickly. With those laps to go when I was still in the lead, I was just trying to squeeze it down. Just like
there's
I said,
not a lot
just
of thinking going on, right?
there's not a lot of
really
thinking. It's more doing. Like
yeah.
I could feel like you have your face against the fire, like you're as close as you can get, and you go a little too far and you get burnt up. But you lean too far back, and maybe you finish with more in the tank, and that's never that great of a feeling in this race. So I knew and keep pushing and keep turning over. It was honestly a similar mentality to that Boston race where I just had to keep reminding myself, like, hit the gas again, hit it again, because the minute you kind of let up and get that negative momentum, it's really hard to re-engage. So yeah, get into that last lap, and I was giving it, and Mo went flying by me. Yeah, he hit a nice gear shift on that backstretch, and I couldn't match that. When you're, I guess, 9,600 into a 10K, you don't have those quick, sharp gear changes like you might in a 1,500 or a slower tactical race. You just don't. Like, it just feels a bit more mushy when you try to like accelerate. Your body is just toast. And so there was a period of time on that backstretch where I was like, man, like I can't cover this. And I was still trying to cycle up through my gears. And race that lap as best as I could. So, that thought quickly left my head, or, I tried to push it out of, I can't hang with this guy. And so I tried to just cycle up through my gears, and I was able to steady, like build a little more momentum, build a little bit more. And coming around that curve, I was like, I think I can slingshot off of this one and really have a good like final 100. And I was gaining a little ground on Mo, which he had opened up on me very quickly. 100 meters, just you're getting at everything you have left. And I was trying not to tense up, but when you're that tired, you're kind of tense. You're just kind of muscling it through. There's not much fluidity to it at that point. It's just whatever you have left. And I was thankful to have a nice final 100. And Mo and I finished within tenths of each other. And to bring it full circle, my prior monologue about when you have these time trial races versus like races, this one was kind of the best of both worlds. Like we had our teammates out there rabbiting us in ideal conditions, and I had Mo out there with me, and we worked together. But over that last lap, I think if anyone goes back and watches or was watching, we were racing, and that was really fun. We pulled each other along to much faster times than we would have alone. And so, yeah, man, that last lap, part of it was a blur. Part of it felt like it lasted 3 minutes. I mean, it was a strange feeling. I'm sure your brain is kind of fried at that point. Like you're probably so overheated and like, yeah, there's probably no blood flow to your brain. So you're not really like thinking very complete thoughts.
I'm no expert in anatomy or in any of the physiology there, but it certainly seems like you're not firing on all mental cylinders. At least it's very raw.
Yeah.
I mean, 26:33, and Mo just behind you is, yeah. I mean, it lops a big chunk off of the previous American record. I feel like we keep doing this with these these previous Galen Rupp held American records, man. I don't know what the deal is, but yeah, it definitely feels like. I mean, I don't even know entirely where to go from there, because we just described a race in the pretty normal way we've been describing races for the last year or so, including some big ones. But it's just, yeah, I mean, it doesn't even get to the true heart of like running 26:33. I mean, we keep talking about in the preview shows, we keep talking about, I'm gonna try to get close to this mark, and then in the post race shows, we talk about how you probably had the fitness to beat the record, but you're beating this record by a significant margin this time. It's something wild, and I feel like I don't know. I really like what you were saying about workouts compared to races, because even on my level, like I remember talking to Alex Osberg a lot about this when we were both teammates here. Like, do you do a workout at race pace and you're like, there's simply no way I'm going to run a 5K like anywhere near this, or man, I feel so sluggish and tired today doing these reps. Like there's no way that I'm even going to be there. And there's just something about like turning off your brain to what the splits actually are. Like if you think about, I mean, it doesn't matter how, good you are, the accolades, like 63 point or 64, like low, like is not, it can feel smooth maybe, but it's not like, that's not like any sort of complacent running, and that's what you're doing for 6 miles. Like, I mean, it certainly wouldn't feel smooth to me. Just it's not even complacent for you, or something you can kind of like put behind yourself and just like completely shut off in. So like thinking about 64 pace, I mean, is that something that you're trying not to think about in the days leading up to it? Just, I'm going to hit the workouts that Jerry gives me, and that's going to be where it is, but I'm not going to like spend my time thinking about what 64 means. And of course, 104 through 400 is what we're talking about for anyone who doesn't know. I just don't know how you like mentally like approach that for 6 miles. Like, this is how fast it's going to be. I mean, you shut it down, hopefully upstairs as much as you can, but like, how much are you aware of what 64 like really is, you know, like pre-race, in the
Yeah.
race, like what are you thinking about?
Yeah. You know, you have to do some mental gymnastics a bit before the race. You know, 64 seconds for a 400, 416 for a mile, that's not comfortable. That's not relaxed. That, I mean, you're on the gas for that entire rep if you're doing that in training. And yeah, you run a 416 in training, and you know, I think next week if I run a 416 in training, I will think, how did I do this 6 times in a row? Like it just, sometimes in training, like you can build a lot of confidence, but you can also like destroy a lot of confidence in training sometimes too. Um, you know, the pre-race workout that I mentioned that we did at NAU. Granted, we were at 7,000 feet, but we ran a 1,200 as one of our reps at race pace. So 64 point, and didn't feel great.
I
Did
bet
not
not.
feel great. And you know, you talk to the guys after, and they're like, you know, that feels smooth to you, like, and everyone's like, no.
Sometimes one dude is like,
And
yeah, that felt easy as hell, and you're like, oh, and then you feel worse about it. You're like, oh my god, I don't even know.
yeah, so like it's hard to conclude a lot of stuff like that. Like I said, you know, sometimes you hit really nice reps in training, and it builds your confidence. Like, I'm in a good place. This race is going to go well. But sometimes when you really start extrapolating on yourself, you can get yourself into trouble. You can talk yourself out of what you might be capable of.
A hundred
Um,
percent, 100%.
and yeah, and I struggle with that too. Like I said, like, you know, I ran that 1,200 before the race, and was like, man, this is serious. This is gonna be really hard. um, so yeah, you know, the point of the race is for it to be hard. Um, so you know, you can kind of hype yourself up in that sense, kind of looking forward to that hurt and that those moments of fatigue, because those are the moments that you remember. Those are the moments like when you choose to dig in, um, versus when you choose to I guess give in. Um, those are the things that serve you well in the future. Every time you lean into it, and when it's getting hard, instead of backing away, you lean more into it. You put yourself more on the line, and you know, try to get everything out of yourself. Every time you do that, it gets easier. Every time you give up, that gets easier too. I think we talked about this in one of our previous episodes, but
Feels familiar.
yeah, every time you give in, it gets easier to do that. So ideally, you avoid doing that unnecessarily. Um, but yeah,
Yeah. No, I mean, and there's, you know, everyone's situation, whether it's about racing or about training or whatever, like giving in can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people and be more enabled or less enabled, different people, depending on kind of like a lot of things, right? It's why you try to craft your lifestyle in a certain way to kind of like keep kind of like nudging you in the direction of making the right or good decisions for training. But it's also what's so valuable about having teammates like the ones you've surrounded yourself with through most of your career. You know, like top guys that you've been competing with and training on the same team as, and especially like Mo, right? And all these Bowerman guys, like, you know, similarly, like you having a teammate there and both you are running in the 2630s is like, it really, I mean, not that you couldn't have done it on your own. I don't know how you feel about that, but it certainly makes it like a little bit easier to push through that tremendous, you know, like hurt, knowing that that guy's right there. It's like, well, I should be here too in a lot of ways. And I know we've talked about that approach too, but yeah, it's having someone like a teammate, you know, to help you not give in because they're doing it is sometimes like, sometimes you can't get better motivation than that, you know, like not in a competitive sense, but also just in like a, I can do this too sense, hopefully. Yeah, I
yeah,
don't know if that definitely helped enable the times that we saw, but it certainly seemed like that teamwork kind of made it happen.
dude, absolutely. I mean, like I said earlier, like Mo and I needed each other for that race to happen. We couldn't have done that alone, either of us. I guess I'm speaking for Mo here, but We the support of your teammate is invaluable. It's hard to even put a a value on it. Like there, when things get hard, your body and mind's mental I guess initial reaction is going to be like, whoa, like chill out, like don't push so hard, like don't be doing this. Uh, and when you have your teammate there, it's like, well, I can't let this guy down. Like he's counting on me to keep this pace going. And so I don't have a choice. I have to. And sometimes when you're in
And I kind of want
races,
to beat his ass. Yeah, no, yeah, but both
so
parts of it, right? Like, yeah,
yeah, sometimes when you're in races, you want to limit your choices. And having your teammate there, you don't have a choice but to do what you said you were going to do, um, to share the pace and to keep things moving along and keep the pace hot. Um, when you give yourself too many opportunities to make decisions within a race, one, it will waste a lot of mental energy, but two, it's really hard to make the right decision in the moment. You're fatigued, you're tired. Um, I've been in races before where I've been fatigued and tired and give myself too many options, and uh, I've chosen to let up a bit. And I've regretted those decisions a lot after. But in the moment, it seems like the most appealing thing to do.
a great decision.
Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, I mean, everybody struggles with that stuff, but having a teammate there just makes all those things easier. From beyond the training element, which I think I've mentioned tons of times about how great it's been training with Mo and learning from him. Just within the race, having him there, it's like it's a comfort thing. Um, I know the training he's done. He knows the training I've done, and um, you kind of have that feeling of, okay, if this guy can do it, I can do it too. Um, and Mo has certainly set a high bar as far as racing and times have gone. So um, it's fun to be right there with him now.
yeah. No, I mean, in these last couple of weeks, like you're right there with them. It's exciting to see. The only thing I'd talk about from the post race interview that you guys had is Mo had a comment about a goal here of 4 medals, seemingly between the two of y'all. I assume that there's no comment on that at this time. It's definitely at least just something to keep an eye on here as we move into. I mean, we're not even into racing season like fully, right? It's just still kind of the time trial phase. But I don't know if you have any thoughts on way down the line. I mean, the first step, as I'm sure you would say, is just making teams, right? But definitely, I mean, Mo seems that I'm sure deep down you might as well have your eye on some lofty goals for this upcoming summer.
Yeah, dude. This I think is a similar thing. Like Mo knows what it takes. Mo has 2 medals. I have 0 medals.
You have zero
I
medals.
would love to get one.
Yeah.
That's a big goal of mine. My personality is kind of like don't get too far ahead of yourself.
For sure.
So like you said, there's several steps that need to be taken before I even have the opportunity to be in a race where medals are awarded.
This is true.
You have the U.S. champs. You have rounds of 5K at U.S. champs and at the world champs, and a lot of things have to go right for all those stars to align and for you to have a perfect day. And yes, me and Mo ran quite well this past weekend, but there are a lot of people out there in the world, and a lot of them are very fast. We have some very strong competition to go up against, namely the 5 and 10K world record holder, and several others that are very talented and very fast. So this was a great building block, and it was an incredible race, and I'm honored to have the American record. And getting a global medal would be incredible. I wouldn't project too much into the future though. I'd say it's a goal, but yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I like it. Switching gears a bit to Elise's near miss at her American record. I mean, a phenomenal race. I'd love to hear her talk more about it in depth in the coming days, hopefully. But bigger than that, I mean, she ran 7K of that thing alone with the light rail next to her. And I mean, I know I don't know if you saw it in the moment or if you just heard about it since then, but the situation with her passing the light rail in the home straight. And I don't know, you were mentioning how Jerry basically, like kind of was coordinating with Jesse on like what to set it at. Do you know if hers was set on the American record and it just didn't get there for some reason or do you know if it was intentionally like a second or two behind that 30:13 mark from Molly Huddle? And like what was the deal with that? Because it seemed like she crossed and maybe thought she'd gotten it, or at least everyone else thought she'd gotten it because she was ahead of this light rail. This is again another reason why I was very happy in your race. You just threw the light rail off to the side pretty early on to that last 2 or 3K, and we're like, we're just gonna go run 10 seconds faster than the American record. Talk to me. Do you know anything about Elise's deal with that?
Yeah, so our race was intentionally set for pretty much exactly the American record pace. I think it was exactly the American record pace. Elise's race was, the pacing lights were set to, I think, 3 seconds slower than the American record pace. That was intentional. That was what I guess I wasn't involved in the discussions, but that's what Jerry and Elise had discussed. And I believe the idea was, have the pace be, I think 30:16, I think is what it was set to.
Yeah.
And then kick off of it. So have the lights at, where you want to be. And then naturally you kick the last lap. Ideally that dips you under the record. I guess the other way of doing it, it was kind of the way we did it, where you set the lights to exactly the record, which realistically is not exactly how those races are run. For example, the old record, Galen's 26:44, he closed in like 1:57. He made up a ton of time over the last 2 laps. So the way that he ran it was not 26:44 pace the whole time. If you go back and watch his race, which I watched the race the night before.
Again, huh?
Yeah.
Like that's cool.
I had to. It was posted on I think like Tracktown or maybe Pre-Classics Facebook page. So I had to log into Facebook for the first time in years to watch this. And it was really cool watching the race. Honestly, I modeled my race plan quite similarly to what Galen did. He was in a pack of 3-4 guys, had a rabbit, and was sitting in the back of the pack. And that was essentially what I did in my race too. So I definitely was taking notes. And in that race, Mo Farah was actually one of the 2 commentators and was providing great insight on, how to race a 10K, how to relax, when to make your move. He was making comments on what Galen was doing and what he thought was working well. And again, I was taking notes on that too. So if you watch both races, you'll see where I took some of those ideas and tried to implement. I think that race great. I mean, he had a crazy last 2 laps. And, watching that race, I think you would conclude that he probably could have run faster than 26:44 on that day. But yeah, back to the lights and the pace lights. The way that a race is naturally run is, you run a little slower on average over the first bit, and then, you kick at the end. So that was more the idea on Elise's pace lights. And I'm pretty sure, talking to her after, she knew the time that she needed to hit, and when she crossed the line, she knew that she was about a second off, which is heartbreaking. And I mentioned many times how valuable it was having Mo next to me. Elise had it much harder leading for 7K. I don't think I could have done that. Yeah, so definitely incredibly impressive what she did. I know she missed the record, and I know she was disappointed about that, but that was a massive performance.
Exactly. I mean, I'm sure there's disappointment there being so close to something that is so much effort to get to, but like big picture, looking down the line for the next months for her, like you're not in a bad spot by any means. It's an optimal place. So yeah, a narrow miss this time, but it definitely feels like she'll have many more chances for it. I was just
Yeah.
interested to hear about that because we were watching it in the dorm. We were like, did the lights slow down? Did they did they misprogram it? And hearing you talk about how specifically they can set them, just to give the light rail company a little bit of slack here that they didn't mess it up and it was selected, or it was seemingly selected as 3016, just slightly off of the pace for the reasons you talked about. That's definitely good to hear.
Yeah, I think
yeah.
the only issue is that it probably should have been mentioned on the broadcast that I guess obviously I wasn't watching the live stream of Elise's race. But yeah, it sounds like that maybe should have been mentioned before, because it sounds like a lot of people were kind of confused about the lights with what they were set to and stuff. I don't know what they said on the live broadcast, but it sounds like there was some not miscommunication, but just like lack of communication to people watching what the lights were set to.
Yeah, it definitely does. But like we were saying, she'll probably have more opportunities. She'll definitely have more opportunities and it's still a massive PR for her. So you definitely can't be too disappointed in her position or in yours. And you had multiple other teammates, hit this world standard in the 10K. Sean, Kieran, both got under it. I don't want to leave anyone out, but I think that was all on that men's side. But just like, seems like you went in, you got the job done, and now you're back in Portland for a bit. Don't know if you've really even thought much about. I'm sure you guys have it roughly mapped out, but when you might race next, how long you're down for, a little bit of a breather, I guess, in terms of altitude.
Yeah. I have somewhat of a roadmap. We will be down in Portland for a month to a month and a half or so. And then we'll go up to Park City for another altitude camp, kind of probably the second or third week in April. I would really like to race a 1500 between now and then. I think it'd be really fun just to try to compete with some speed guys. Get to a 15. So hopefully can find something in the next month and a half or so. I think there might be some good opportunities in California to do. So that could be a good time. But yeah, we'll go up to altitude, and then as I mentioned kind of at the beginning of this, we have a condensed season because the US 10K champs are attached to the Prefontaine meet now. They're like, I think May 27th or 28th now.
Yeah, that's an interesting move.
So it limits the amount of racing that you can do before that, especially if you're a team that likes to go up to altitude like us. When you go up to altitude, you really don't want to leave for the first 21 to 28 days. So you can't really race in that block. And when the US champs get moved up like that, there won't be racing about 21 days before that, because or not necessarily, I guess, but we'll need to have our 21-day period or 28-day period where we don't race, and that cuts into the season, unfortunately. So, yeah, there's a lot of positives to the meet being moved up. It'll be really cool to have a dedicated night just watching the 10K, not cutting to as many commercials, ideally. Maybe a little more hype, like a standalone event. I think the coverage will be great. So awesome. Really cool that they're doing that. But it does condense the season, and it condenses everybody's season. So I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, but it's a reality that we have to work around and build a season around.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. We'll talk much more about like that unique look to this season as we get closer to it. I think a couple things in wrapping up. You mentioned Portland, Oregon. I first off got to shout out the apparel sponsor of one half of this podcast, co-hosting duo. It's Wardrobe for the Night, Zane Faj, aka silknode on Instagram. Everyone should follow him. dropped the new Yeti Tech Fleece jacket, which is in heavy demand. You wouldn't believe it, Grant. I didn't believe it at first. John Meyer slid into his DMs asking for a piece of this wardrobe action, and that is not an exaggeration. I saw the
Dang,
DM.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know it's legitimate. So silknode on Instagram, he made it with Explora, handmade in Portland, Oregon. I've been wearing it this entire podcast. I got my window open. It's very temperature cooling. There's Kevlar in the sleeves as well. Really enjoying wearing this around. So shout out Zane. I'm sure your clothing sponsor. It's also of decent quality. I don't know if anyone's heard of those guys.
My clothing sponsor. But, our side. This is mirrored. There we go.
I should also, if you're listening to the podcast forum, the advantage is that you won't have any of these internet connection cutouts because Grant records his own audio into his side of the microphone. But if you're on YouTube, you at least get to see our sick fits and Grant's Nike tee. And so it works both ways. But yeah, shout out Zane for this one, for letting me hold this thing for a little bit. Very excited about it. And I can't believe it took me almost an hour to get that in there. Yeah, man. I mean, I do think that, and I guess this is kind of a rapid transition from the clothing sponsor, but you had a little bit of social media posting, right, about the race, about your team. But obviously I think today or yesterday you made a series of posts talking about what this race meant to you, and hopefully meant for more than just you, the greater Stanford community, mourning the loss of Katie Meyer, captain and goalkeeper of the women's soccer team, who tragically passed a week ago today. It is definitely a tough situation and thing to even address or talk about. Almost don't feel qualified to do so, but obviously it's had our community reeling. Many people close to me who knew her very well. Just a tragic situation. And you by happenstance were bib number 19 in this race, or hip number 19, which was her number. And just a very small thing. I don't think that you maybe knew her. I mean, I can let you speak on like how this felt for you, or your brother Mark, who's on the men's soccer team. But just, I saw Vanessa, I saw Elise, all kind of posting about, keeping the Stanford community in their hearts. And I didn't know if you posted about it, if you had anything further to say or talk about kind of the experience of this race in connection to that at all, or, just more generally, because I think that it is a little bit, like we don't want to be saying that like this race was anything that it wasn't as well, I guess. Like, just floor is yours, basically.
Yeah, and I mean, super sad situation all around. And it did hit kind of close to home for me. Katie was a Stanford student athlete on the women's soccer team. My little brother's on the men's soccer team there, and he knew her quite well. So I had spoken to him earlier in the week, and he said it had been rough. That's nothing that you can prepare yourself for as a friend, and as a family member, and it's just a tragic situation. So yeah, I was talking with Elise and Sean and Vanessa about it, just because it feels like it was someone we know. I didn't know Katie. I'd watched her play a few times, and I had sat in the stands near her as we watched the men's soccer team play, but I didn't know her. But you do kind of identify with the person. I think we were or you currently are, but I was a student athlete at Stanford. Elise was a student athlete at Stanford. Vanessa was a student athlete at Stanford. It feels like one of our own. So I think it obviously we weren't as connected as someone that actually knew her and was friends with Katie, but it definitely hit home and reminds you of the things that really are important in life. racing and running fast and all these things are great, but there are things that are much more important. And yeah, before the race, I going to be hip number 19. Purely coincidence. I didn't request 19. It just happened. And when I got the hip number, I was like, man, like it just reminded me of my little brother, of the things that he was saying about Katie, that people were saying about dealing with the loss and everything. So I felt it was a fitting tribute. And yeah, I think sounds like she touched the lives of a lot of people. Mental health is a very serious thing. I won't pretend to be an expert on it or anything, but it is a serious thing. And it's really tragic when things like this happen. And I really feel for her friends and family. So yeah, I hope it was a fitting tribute. But it's an outpouring support, just community.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think it's very well said. Yeah, it's been a heavy week for all of us on campus. I also didn't know her personally, but she was just such a large figure within our athletic department and seen as such a leader, I think, of all of our kind of our entire athletic culture here at Stanford. So she'll be missed greatly. And I think it serves as many different things and not nearly simply this, but it is just a reminder to everyone of the connections that they make in their groups, in their circles, and especially within your teams, and how important that they are, and how hopefully everyone listening out there knows like how much that they are loved and valued by people close to them and important to them, no matter how dark something may seem. But again, echoing your thing, I am certainly by no means an expert in mental health. So if you are struggling, there's resources just a click and a couple of types away on the internet, people close to you, but never be afraid to reach out. I think that's just a super important thing to say.
Yeah.
So yeah, on a bit of a heavier conclusion, of course, but importantly so. Just what a special week that this was for you, though, in the context of this race and getting it done, working with teammates. I mean, these last 2 or 3 weeks, man. I mean, I said it after Boston. Truly a special level of a new level. I feel like that we're unlocking. Where like same thing I said a couple weeks ago, man. I mean, things are certainly moving in the right direction. 26:33, and on real time. I still, I mean, similar to the mental gymnastics that you say you do pre-race. I feel like even thinking about that number as a 10K time is kind of ridiculous. I mean, I know it's not the world record, but it's kind of ridiculous. I'm excited to see what you can do over a 15 as well. That would be really fun. Maybe you run a mile at some point. I don't know.
No. I think a
never.
15. I'll stay away from the mile.
Not one time. Not even one time. We're gonna one of these years that Worlds or Olympics doesn't overlap with Sir Walter. We're gonna get you down to Raleigh, and we're gonna see about that. We'll do it on my high school's track. The only other things that I have, at least for listeners, is hopefully we're gonna have some interviews coming up in the coming weeks. Now that you're down from altitude, we might be able to make some connections in Oregon. Maybe get some old friends on the mic for an episode or two here. We had someone tweeted us to get Lopez on, so we're gonna have to corral him. Maybe it can be part of like house dues if he joins the little club here at your house. But yeah, stay tuned for hopefully some content with some special guests as well over the coming weeks. We've had some pretty good seasons so far, but I feel like we're just getting started, despite this kind of capping off that time trial portion of the season, and obviously being a wild, impressive achievement. Feels like we're really just getting this thing going. Really excited about it, man. I'm really excited for you.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Oh, man, it's been a fun start to the season. Yeah, trying to balance, just being amped from PRs and all the great things that my team has been doing, world standards, like all the above, and balancing that with the vision of the big stuff's in the summer. So yeah, the team's had a great start to the year, and hopefully we can snowball this into some more great stuff this summer.
For sure.
But yeah, now it's time for a little downtime, a little down cycle in training. No workouts this week. A very rare luxury that my coach gave us. So yeah, no workouts. That means lots of sleeping, just easy running.
That's nice. Two things, both about hats. First of all, Woody wearing the arm sleeves, so he's racing. That was kind of the impression we were all under. Hat, does it signify that he's pacing? Was that kind of the implicit message there? Especially when Ollie Hoare was given, I think it looked like the same type of hat, but there's no way that could be true because of contract stipulations, of course. But was the hat a sign that Woody was pacing?
I guess kind of. He wanted to wear the hat. I'm not sure if it was to signify pacing, but he wanted to wear a hat. He was talking about it the day before. He's like, I'm going to wear a hat. It does seem like a lot of times when people like Ollie, when you double back from a previous race to pace, I feel like people often like to do like the t-shirt or the hat.
The t-shirt I felt like was kind of new for me. I mean, I guess I'd seen it occasionally before, but I feel like I was not expecting a t-shirt, although doubling back.
Maybe that's a new thing. Yeah. I don't really know what Woody's motivation was to wear the hat, but he rocked it. Brand new hats. Get them on Bowerman's website. I guess I'll plug them.
Yeah, shout out Bowerman.
I think they're still available. I don't think they're sold out.
Things for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, as someone who's also interested in pushing the boundaries of fashion, a la this jacket, I thought that the t-shirt pacing job was interesting and cool, as well as the hats. And then the second question is possibly the biggest hats I've ever seen post race in the interview that you and Mo had on. Where is that hat now? Can we see it on the live stream, and why did it cover not just your head but the entire heads of anyone who put it
on? Yeah, so those hats were given to us by the Sound Running guys after the race. They say I'll grab it here just a second.
Just grab it. It's fine. I can stall it for the audio only people. This hat, in case you guys didn't see the live stream, is like an interesting like teal shade of blue, I think, and is like at least 3 feet in diameter.
All right, so here's the hat.
Oh,
shout out Sound Running. Yeah, and I have this thing like completely cinched in the back.
Okay, that's why it was very loose. I feel like it.
So I kind of have a tiny head.
Yeah, but it was like it was huge on everyone is the thing. I know you have a tiny head, but I was like,
yeah, I mean, I honestly, have a small head, but
it's
yeah,
like
so everything. All hats kind of look a little goofy on me. But this one's too big for me. Especially the flat brim. The flat brim just makes it look like so much bigger. It's like, yeah. When I first put it on, there were like noticeable gaps on the side, but
there were.
I cinched it down a bit.
Nice.
Here's the Bowerman hat for the live stream people. Little BTC on the side, also that's cinched cool hat, pretty tight. So this one's a little more streamlined for running.
I'm a big backwards hat on the run guy, but I feel like forwards hat, especially in a race, I'd be worried about it if there's any wind, almost like blowing off. I mean, even if it's cinched pretty good down, like there's got to be some sort of wind resistance calculation in there. Woody was just getting a little bit extra work in, I guess, or something.
Yeah, I mean, they can't be the most aerodynamic thing.
They just can't. That's the thing. He was resistance training in the lab this weekend.
That's true.
You're gonna have to watch for him moving forward.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, when we were wearing these, they said Sound Running on them, so I feel like we wore them forward because of that.
I mean, post race as well.
Yeah,
post race you can wear a hat forward. It's the norm. just while you're running, you got to kind of have it. I don't know. To each his own, of course. I loved seeing it from Woody. I loved seeing it from the guys. I loved seeing an American record out of you, my podcast co-host. Is there anything else that we got to address before we sign off here?
No, I thought that was pretty comprehensive. We went kind of long.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of sleepy. It's kind of late. Sorry, I was kind of rubbing my eyes this whole podcast. My contacts are getting a little dry.
No, you did great. It's my fault for having stuff to do until like 9 p.m.
No, you're good, man.
It's, you know how that college life is. You got practice,
Yeah.
you got lift. Yeah, it's a lot. Love it though. You got to embrace it. I am grateful to get you on this Tuesday night. Hopefully this will be out Wednesday midday for you guys to consume. And yeah, let us know your thoughts in general on all this, on which way you wear hats, on if Woody looked dope as hell in the race, on this tech fleece jacket, and on anything else you guys want to talk about. Leave a comment, Instagram, DM, email. You guys know how to reach us. And thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Halfstep Pod. We should be back next week with another episode. Thanks, y'all.
Yeah, thank you guys.